Bastet was the revered Egyptian cat goddess with the head of a cat and the body of a woman, who was known as a fearsome and almighty protector. Also known as Bast, Bastet is one of the most important goddesses of ancient Egyptian mythology. She was most frequently represented as a long, slender woman with the head of a cat, while carrying a sistrum and a breastplate. A goddess of great power, she had many attributes, including protection, pleasure, good health and fertility. She is closely associated with the lioness goddess Sekhmet, and the two were even variations of the same goddess in different parts of early Egypt. Her many alternate epithets include the Lady of the East, goddess of the rising sun, and the sacred and all-seeing eye. We take a closer look at her history and evolution. An Egyptian cat goddess. In the later centuries of ancient Egypt, Bastet was primarily represented as a half-human, half-cat creature. Previously she had been a lioness goddess with the head of a lioness, and known in Upper Egypt as Sekhmet. Her closely tied relationship with cats gave Bastet special status in Egyptian culture. Cats were highly regarded for their ability to protect citizens from rodents, snakes and other pests. Through their highly effective pest control, cats warded off the spread of disease, and kept vital crops safe. Thus, Bastet shared many of these attributes with cats, and became known as a great protector who kept humans and gods safe from evil predators. Within the heavenly realms Bastet appeared as her human-cat hybrid, but while on earth she took the form of a cat. The daughter of Ra. Bastet descended from the most significant family in Egyptian mythology. Daughter of Ra, the god of life and creation, she was by his side day and night. Egyptians believed she would ride through the sky each day with Ra, protecting him as his boat pulled the sun through the sky. At night, she turned into a cat to protect Ra from the deadly serpent Apep. In later Egyptian mythology Bastet became known as the calmer sister of Sekhmet. She married Ptah, and became mother to Mihos, the Egyptian goddess of protection, pleasure, fertility, and more. Bastet was worshipped as a deity throughout much of ancient Egypt's evolution, most frequently in Lower Egypt, even if her form and power changed over the years. She was an Egyptian goddess with many associated attributes, including protection, pleasure, fertility, and good health. In many parts of Egypt Bastet also became known as goddess of the moon, and was thought to be both the eye of the moon and the eye of Ra. Many Egyptians saw her feline attributes as all-powerful, with the ability to protect their homes from evil spirits and disease, much in the way cats could ward off vermin. Some Egyptians believed she had a particular benign form of power that could protect royalty, and her name was found in the Valley Temple of King Khafra in Giza. Throughout the course of ancient Egyptian history, festivals and temples were erected in Bastet's honor, and she even had her own cult in the northeast delta of the Nile. Evidence suggests some select groups continue to worship her today. Bastet was also known as Sekhmet. Somewhat confusingly, both the Egyptian goddesses Bastet and Sekhmet share many similarities and overlaps. In Lower Egypt, Bastet was worshipped throughout the evolution of their civilization. Her earliest form was that of a woman with a lion's head, rather than a cat. This made her remarkably similar to the goddess of Upper Egypt, called Sekhmet, who was also half woman, half lion. The pair shared similar attributes, both being the daughter of Ra, and as feline, female defenders of the innocent against forces of evil. In early mythology both goddesses were vengeful and bloodthirsty, but over time Bastet became softer, as her role shifted into that of a helper and friend. Both goddesses evolved from variations on Moftet, the first feline deity to appear in Egyptian mythology, whose greatest attribute was that of protection. When Lower and Upper Egypt merged, that's when things became a little more complicated. Egyptians kept the two gods separate. Sekhmet became known as goddess of war, retaining her lion's head, while Bastet became a cat goddess who was more peaceful and benevolent in nature. From the pyramid texts onward, Bastet has a double aspect of nurturing mother and terrifying avenger. It is the demonic aspect that mainly features in the coffin texts and the Book of the Dead and in medical spells. The slaughterers of Bastet were said to inflict plague and other disasters on humanity. One spell advises pretending to be the son of Bastet in order to avoid catching the plague. Meaning of Bastet's name. Her name was originally Ubaste, which became Bast, then Bastet. The meaning of this name is not known or, at least, not universally agreed upon. Geraldine Pinch claims that her name probably means she of the ointment jar, as she was associated with protection and protective ointments. The Greeks associated her closely with their goddess Artemis and believed that, as Artemis had a twin brother, Apollo, so should Bast. They associated Apollo with Horus, the son of Isis, Harusa Aset, and so called the goddess known as Bast Bastet, soul of Isis, which would be the literal translation of her name with the addition of the second T to denote the feminine, Aset being among the Egyptian names for Isis. Bastet, however, was also sometimes linked with the god of perfume and sweet smells, Nefertum, who was thought to be her son, and this further links the meaning of her name to the ointment jar. The most obvious understanding would be that, originally, the name meant something like she of the ointment jar, Ubaste, and the Greeks changed the meaning to soul of Isis as they associated her with the most popular goddess in Egypt. Even so, scholars have come to no agreement on the meaning of her name. Associations Bastet was extremely popular throughout Egypt with both men and women from the Second Dynasty of Egypt, circa 2890 to circa 2670 BCE, onward, with her cult centered at the city of Bubastis from at least the 5th century BCE. She was first represented as a woman with the head of a lioness and closely associated with the goddess Sekhmet, but, as that deity's iconography depicted her as increasingly aggressive, Bastet's images softened over time to present more of a daily companion and helper than her earlier forms as savage avenger. Although she was greatly venerated, she was equally feared, as two of her titles demonstrate, the Lady of Dread and the Lady of Slaughter. She is associated with both Mao, the divine cat who is an aspect of Ra, and with Moftet, goddess of justice and the first feline deity in Egyptian history. Both Bastet and Sekhmet took their early forms as feline defenders of the innocent, avengers of the wronged, from Moftet. This association was carried on in depictions of Bastet's son Mahis, protector of the innocent, who is shown as a lion-headed man carrying a long knife or as a lion. In Bastet's association with Mao, she is sometimes seen destroying the enemy of Ra, Apophis, by slicing off his head with a knife in her paw, an image Mao is best known by. In time, as Bastet became more of a familial companion, she lost all trace of her leonine form and was regularly depicted as a house cat or a woman with the head of a cat, often holding a sistrum. She is sometimes rendered in art with a litter of kittens at her feet, but her most popular depiction is of a sitting cat gazing ahead.